If you clicked on this video, you're probably finding it a little bit of a struggle to be disciplined, and I can understand why, because I've struggled with this idea or this concept for 6 years. 6 years ago I was overweight, I was 125 kilos, I didn't have any ambition, but then slowly but surely I have been able to transform myself. I'm way more attractive, I'm more ambitious, I have bigger dreams, and all of that has come through being disciplined. And what I want to share with you today is the paradigm, the lens of discipline that I have, because viewing discipline through studying behavioral science and understanding what really causes behavior change has made it a lot easier for me to become the person that I am today. So let's get into it. I'm going to define discipline as doing the hard shit, or the hard work, or the hard tasks that don't really give you any pleasure now, but in the future, at some point, will. For example, if you go to the gym now, it might not be that fun right now. 5 a.m. in the morning, you're going to the gym before work or before school, or whatever you're doing in your day, and you're not getting any pleasure from that. It kind of sucks, but you're still doing it now because later on in a year, in 2 years, you're going to thank yourself for it. The reason why it's quite difficult to be disciplined for some things is, I think, because of this idea of a belief scale. And so whenever we're trying to create a new behavior in our life and we're trying to be disciplined, let's say we're trying to lose weight, we often have an existing belief, which is this square. In this belief, it's like, I am fat. And I can talk about this with quite a lot of conviction because I used to be 125 kilos. But underneath this, it's like, I don't like exercise. We have, I don't like protein. Okay, this was literally my dad. He said he doesn't like protein. And basically, we have all this existing beliefs, but we want to lose weight. And so what we need to do is embody new behaviors that is going to change the outcome of our life. The hard thing about discipline is that our beliefs exist on a scale. On one side of the scale, we have I am fat. On the other side, we have I am not fat. The reason that we believe that we are fat is because of a lot of evidence throughout our life that we've collected through our experiences that suggests that we are fat, okay? And then what happens is that we act based on these behaviors, okay? So for example, I also believe that I'm funny. And that's because throughout my whole childhood, I grew up and I was the class clown. And so I would say random jokes in class, people would laugh, and this created evidence that I'm a funny person. And now when I go to social occasions, I will act out that behavior because it's a safe bet for me. I know that because people have laughed at my jokes in the past, it's likely that whatever I say, or a lot of the things that I say, even though they're a little bit weird, people will laugh. The reason why creating new outcomes in our life is difficult is because we have to create pieces of evidence that deny the existing belief that we have. So if we want to go from I am fat to I am not fat, we have to then create evidence that suggests that we do like protein and we do like exercise. That is what makes discipline difficult, is because we don't have the evidence that create the belief that we are this person. Because as we build up more evidence, we then create the belief, and then it's this positive reinforcing cycle where we act because we believe. But at the beginning, it's really, really difficult because we don't have the belief there. What we're trying to do with all of this is basically tip the scale and move this way and move this way, so much so, right, that the scale shifts in our favor, that we have the belief, and then it doesn't require discipline to do the things that we want to do and get the outcomes that we want. Creating new outcomes in our life generally becomes easier because of this concept called the self-trust bucket. Over time, we're basically just layering on more and more self-trust. So 5 years ago, I started losing weight. And when I started losing weight, I didn't really have that much trust in myself, so I find it a lot more difficult. But as I started going to the gym and I started keeping these promises to myself, I fill up this bucket. And then as I fill it up by keeping promises to myself, I have more trust in myself because I'm literally doing the hard thing now, and I have this general belief that I can do the uncomfortable shit now, even though I know that I don't have the pre-existing evidence that supports that behavior. And so now I can create social media content, I can start a business, I can do all these more challenging things because I'm layering on evidence that just suggests in general that I can do hard stuff. And so at the beginning, it's probably the hardest to be disciplined, but over time it becomes easier and easier because we have this stack of evidence that we can change and we can become this new person over and over and over again. I think one of the things that is really important when you're being disciplined is actually just focus. There are two types of restaurant, right? You have a buffet on one side and you have niche restaurants on the other side. And like we said, right, we're trying to change our beliefs. We're trying to change our identity. And if we change our identity successfully, if we change the beliefs that we have about ourselves, then we get the outcomes that we want. Because once we believe that we are this person, right, that is creating content, that is starting a business, then it's only a matter of time until we get the outcomes that we want. But if we try and chase down all the goals that we have, right, and we try and be disciplined in, 10 different new areas in our life, then we are going to be like a buffet, because at buffets, you go and get like Italian food and curries and pasta and ice cream, but then you come out of it and you feel kind of like bloated, and the quality of food was a bit crap, and it was never like a really amazing experience. You never say, oh, the pasta was so great. But what you want to be like is actually a niche. And what I mean by that is like a specialist Italian restaurant or something like that, where they're really good at making the dough and the tomato sauce and the amazing cheese, and you take one bite of that pizza and you're like, that is delicious, I want more of that. When you do that, you focus on that one thing and you nail it. Because what we're trying to do, like I said, we're trying to change our beliefs, and when we change our beliefs, it requires conscious attention, because we're doing something different to what we have always done. Okay, we're trying to oppose the unconscious. And once we've nailed that belief, okay, and once we've changed our behavior so much so that it becomes unconscious, the new behavior becomes unconscious, then we don't require discipline. Then we can just do it unconsciously. And so then we can just basically sequence our goals that way, so that we're not doing everything at once, but we're actually just knocking one pin over at a time. A good analogy to explain this is that when you go to the gym, it is a lot of effort to build muscle or burn fat. Like right now I'm in a fat loss phase, I'm trying to lose fat. I'm going to the gym, I'm doing 10,000 steps, I'm tracking my calories. But once I've reached the desired body shape or the desired weight that I want, it's a lot easier to maintain. I mean, to maintain muscle, you only need to go to the gym like once a week, right? And so viewing your goals as this sequence of things that you can topple over is way easier, because once you've achieved a certain revenue goal in your business, or once you've made an amount of progress with your physical health, then you can move on to a different aspect of your life, and it's a lot easier to maintain the area that you've already changed. Change is hard, staying the same is easy. That is like one foundational thing that is going to make it super easy for you to achieve what you want out of life. Now we know that we need to change our behaviors, we need to change our belief system. How do we make that as easy as possible? And B.F. Skinner has this really good quote that I want to say, because I think it kind of summarizes everything that I'm going to mention in this video. And the idea is that, like, you've probably heard the thing, you can take a horse to water, but you can't force them to drink. And then B.F. Skinner comes along, and he's like this father of behavior change, I think, or at least human behavior. He's like a real like pioneer in that space. He said that if I dehydrate the horse close to death, then I can probably make the horse drink water. And the idea is that if we can set up the right conditions for success, if we can set up the right conditions for the behavior that we want to create, then we can make it happen. Now, the issue is we are trying to create behaviors that are hard now, that we're going to get rewards in the future. But the whole of society is designed to make us consume things that are easy now, that are frictionless now, that give us instant rewards now, that are going to have damaging in the future. If you think about fast food, social media, and now like even ChatGPT, like it's all just frictionless reward, right? And so that is like the conditions of the environment that we're kind of contending with to be disciplined. And in Jeff Bezos's 2020 shareholder letter, he says something really interesting. He references a book called The Blind Watchmaker by Richard Dawkins. And basically the idea that he talks about is that when organisms die, they will just become the environment. They will match the acidity of the environment, they match the pH of the environment, they match the temperature of the environment. The only thing that is keeping like us as an organism or plants as an organism different from the environment is the energy within us, okay? But once it dies, we just disintegrate into the environment. And so if you want to not do the things that are like easy and fast rewarding, and if you want to be disciplined, it's likely that you don't, then you have to put energy into curating the environment that is going to be conducive to the goals that you want to like achieve in your life, to the outcomes that you want to achieve in your life. Prior to the outcomes, it's what are the behaviors that I need to exhibit to become the person that I want to be? and how can I set up the environment so that those behaviors become easy. And we have to put energy into doing that, because if we don't, then we're going to just disintegrate into what the environment says, and the environment is like rubbish. Most people are obese, most people have jobs that they hate, most people are spending a lot of their time on social media. And so if you don't put energy into curating the environment that is going to allow you to succeed, you're basically destined to fail. And that's what I'm going to explain to you next. And I see two areas where you can like create a real big impact. And you have your physical environment and you have your digital environment. So the physical environment is like the stuff around, okay? You have the sofas in the room, the TV, the phone, the laptop, your desk, like all of these things, the gym bag. These are physical things in our environment that we can control in order to make it easier for us to do the behaviors that we want to do in order to be disciplined and achieve the goals that we want. In our physical environment, right, we have to control it. Like, just think about it. When you walk into a room, right, you're like, the chairs are set up and you could sit anywhere in the room, right? You could sit on the floor, you could try to sit on the wall, you could even try and like somehow sit on the ceiling and stick your bum to it. But you choose to sit on the chair because that is the easiest thing to do in that space. And like, as humans, we will always take the path of least resistance. And so it's about setting up your physical environment so that the path of least resistance is the behavior that you want to exhibit. That is the disciplined behavior, is the thing that is hard now but easy later. Sorry, that is hard now, that's going to give you a reward later. Okay, so that being said, I'm going to just share like 3 examples of how I've actually just used this in my life, like really simple examples. So one thing, I called up my friend the other day and I was like, how do I like protect my skin? Because I don't know, I just felt like I'm not really doing anything for my skin. And you know what, I was like, how do I asked this, like, she's a girl, and I was like, I think she might know about sun cream. Sorry, I thought she might know about skincare, and one of the things she said was like, start using factor 50 UV. Apparently that's like the gold standard for great skincare. And like, I just like wasn't doing it. I told myself in the morning that I'm gonna do it, and I just wasn't doing it. And so, easy thing, I just took the sun cream and I put it on outside onto my bedside table, and now it's just there in plain sight. And then what this does is mean it triggers me and reminds me that, okay, cool, I'm gonna use the sun cream. Another area of my life which I kept forgetting was taking my vitamins. Now, I don't even know if vitamins work, but I do want to take them because, I don't know, it just makes me feel healthy, I guess. It's placebo, whatever, I don't know. Anyway, that's a debate for another day that maybe I can go into. I always kept on forgetting. I even did this thing called habit stacking. So habit stacking is this idea where you pair the desired behavior with the existing behavior, and you say, I'm going to eat my vitamins after I have my breakfast. And I said that to myself. Every time I have my breakfast, I'm gonna have the vitamins. I still kept on forgetting. And so what I did was I took the vitamins like idea and I put it every day. It's a reminder after I have my breakfast at 11:45 to have my vitamins. And sometimes I'll come back to my laptop to work after having breakfast, and there'll be this like reminder to have my vitamins. So as soon as I look to do my next task, I get reminded, oh shit, I need to have my vitamins. I go back into the kitchen and then I have them. And now I've been having them consistently for since I ever started doing that. And so this is the type of thing that you want to do with your physical environment, where you are basically just like curating all the things around you so that the behaviors that you want to exhibit that make you disciplined, that are the hard things now but give you the rewards later, become easy, effortless, without friction. Things like keeping a gym bag ready by the door. Let's say you want to do yoga, then you probably want to keep your yoga mat out because that's probably going to make it easier for you to do yoga rather than having the friction of putting out the yoga mat before every time. And there are countless examples with this, but that's just to give you a flavor of what you should be doing with your environment to curate it so that the behaviors that you want to exhibit to be disciplined are easy. The next thing that you want to be doing is your digital environment. I think there are two things that are really important here. And the first is the content that you consume. Now, this is a really big one because the content that you consume is the substrate for your thoughts. And the thing is, man, your content can either be fast food for the amygdala and it could be like frying your brain right now, and then like later on you're just not going to have an attention span, you're going to be really stupid. Or it could be spirulina for the soul. And what I mean by that is like it could be like uplifting, it could be like allowing you to gain knowledge. Like listening to this is spirulina for the soul. What you want to do is make sure that all the time like you're basically listening to the content that is going to allow you to perform the behaviors that you want, because it's like informing you the way that you think, right? So like I'll give you an example. This was like ages ago, a few years ago. I used to go for walks like every day, and I used to work at different companies, and I'd work from home, and I'd go for a walk at lunchtime, sometimes go for like mid-morning break and go for a walk, sometimes in the afternoon, sometimes even in the morning if it wasn't a gym day. And sometimes I would listen to a podcast. And now I could have listened to any podcast, but for some reason I decided to pick this guy called Rob Dial, and he's in America. I don't really listen to him that much anymore. He's in America, and he's called the Mindset Mentor. And every single day I would have these like 20-minute tidbit, really short, really snappy podcasts, and I like got hooked. And like he would talk about loads of different things. Like one of the things that he talked about was being impeccable. And so I used to be like pretty lazy at university. I used to like leave my like I would be the guy in my flatmate's house or in my house to like with my flatmates to like leave the dishes in the sink, and like I'll just be dirty in general, I think. And he said once, be impeccable. Like after you've like finished using something, like clear it up straight away. And at that point I started to like, because of he was saying it in my head so much, and he was being like quite motivating and inspiring with the way that he was saying it, I then basically started performing those behaviors in my life, and it started to create this reinforcing cycle where I started to believe that I am an impeccable person. And now like it just feels normal to me. In fact, I walk around the gym now because I've realized like these beliefs are so powerful that like I will clear up other people's weights, because I know that if I'm performing the belief that I leave a place better than when I like found it, then that's going to like flow through to the rest of my life, right? And it started with listening to that podcast back when I was like 22 years old, when I was going for walks and like just basically absorbing this information from people that are closer to where I want to be. And I think that's the main point. Like listen to people that are closer to where you want to be, because you will end up emulating the way that they speak, the way that they act, the way that they behave. And that will actually like flow through to your life and it will help you be disciplined. The second thing about your like digital environment is that the phone can be like a massive distraction. I find it the hardest, like probably the hardest thing to stay away from. I'm really good now, but like it is difficult because like there's millions and millions of pounds being like poured into like software engineers who are designed to like keep you on these apps, right? And that could be like literally email, YouTube, WhatsApp, like all of these apps are just like there, like crying, like literally trying to pry your attention, right? And so I think there's like a few protocols that you can put in place to basically like just avoid using the phone, so that like you're not frying your reward systems, and then discipline becomes easier. Because like the way that like these phones work is that they are specifically designed to like give you this instantaneous reward and give you this peak in dopamine, and then you associate using the phone with this peak in dopamine, and so your brain is like, okay, I need to go back to the phone because I know that it's really rewarding. Your brain doesn't understand that it's really rewarding now, but the downstream impacts of that is that everything else in my life is less rewarding, because we experience things in the context that surrounds them, right? The reason why cinemas will price medium-sized popcorn closer to large-sized popcorn, so they'll put a 5 penny difference between medium-sized popcorn and large-sized popcorn, is because that means large seems like a really good deal in comparison to medium, and that means you will most of the time, or you are way more likely to opt for the large. But if the context of everything that like we're experiencing is this instant, frictionless, fast, easy, rewarding things like social media and our phone, then everything else, like all the things that we want to be disciplined in, like the social media, the business, the content creation, going to the gym, is always going to feel harder, right? We need to try and like lock off this phone. And these are the things that I've done, right? So I have put my phone permanently on grayscale. It's just the color that makes the phone like more visually appealing. And I guarantee if you put your phone on grayscale, you'll be like, oh, this looks a bit shit. And I guarantee that once you use that for a while, soon afterwards, if you turn it into a color, like, oh my God, like you're gonna be like, wow, that is crazy. And it's because the color makes it more appealing. The color makes it more addictive itself. The second thing that you want to do is, and this is a big one, turn off notifications. I want you to imagine like you're at home and you're working and you're trying to do the like hard work, and then you got like every single second you've got like someone coming in, knocking on the door, someone like barging their way into the room. Having your notifications on and looking at your phone every single time you get like something coming in is exactly the same as that, and you're never going to be able to like stay focused, right? And a lot of you will want to be disciplined with the work that you're doing, okay? And if you're just constantly getting a barrage of notifications, you're not going to be able to be disciplined. The third thing is, don't look at it in the morning. Do not look at your phone in the morning. If you wake up in the morning, 50 people like literally just rampage your room and like start jumping on you, you probably wouldn't enjoy that. But looking at your phone and like basically reacting to the rest of the world first thing is a really like stressful way to start the day. And you're just gonna be getting like, you're gonna be like frying your reward systems in the first thing in the morning. And so every other activity, the activities that we want to be disciplined in, are gonna feel harder. And so when we talk about, you know, B.F. Skinner and setting up the conditions for success, looking at your phone in the morning is the opposite to setting up your conditions for success. Those are like the three things that you need to do. And I think I want to say one last thing that has really helped me like stay on track recently, which has really helped me become this disciplined person. And it links to the environment we're in really. But you have to set your own standard. Because the environment that we're in, man, is like, it's kind of fucked. But like, most people are scrolling on TikTok, most people are obese, most people are like, don't have a meaningful career, like 50% of marriages end in divorce. And so if you start comparing what you're doing to the people around you, then you're gonna fall short of your dreams and you're not gonna be the disciplined person that you wanna be. And so you have to decide, like, what does success look like? What does discipline actually look like for me? What are the behaviors that I need to do in order to be the person that I want to be? Because if you start looking to, I don't know, your older brother, or if you start looking to, I don't know, the people at work, and you want to be better than them and you have different goals that they have, then you will not be the person that you want to be. Okay? And so you have to set your own bar. And you have to start meeting that and start shifting that belief and start collecting evidence in support of the belief that you are that person.